With 70 million daily active users and 510 million users each month, Reddit's community is a place where one can find information on just about any topic. But with so many users, there's bound to be some utterly disgusting ones. From a Redditor confessing to murdering his wife, to another stealing goods on a drug-induced trip in Bangkok and ending up in prison for a year, to even two brothers murdering their own mother. Join me today as we take a look at the dangerous world of Reddit criminals. Also, I want to make it clear that since this video is titled The Dangerous World of Reddit Criminals, we're not only going to be talking about specifically Reddit criminals, we're going to be talking about crimes that have anything to do with Reddit. Most of these topics, yes, are Reddit criminals, but there were some very unique ones that Reddit was involved in the crime. For example, solving a crime through Reddit, stuff like that will be in this video. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If you don't know me, my name is Tuv, and I talk about morbid topics usually ranging from 30 minutes to 1 hour, just enough for you to enjoy a scrumptious meal, or maybe even fall asleep to my voice. Yeah guys, I get it. I have a soothing voice that you can fall asleep to, and you guys love telling me you fall asleep to my videos, which I'm completely okay with. It's great for my watch time. If you're not subscribed yet, that's okay. I'll earn your subscription by the end of this video, unless you're sleeping. Then I guess I wouldn't have. Okay, maybe I could earn it by the middle of the video. And speaking of, this video gets very, very dark, so here's a fair warning. With that being said, let's get started. Carl Philip Herold. Many people actively take parts in online communities. They connect with others who share similar interests and even share knowledge and skills. One such well-known figure in sharing knowledge and skills in Reddit was Carl Philip Herold, born in February of 1981 and known online on Reddit as u/Carl H. This user was also a YouTuber, and a good one for that matter, as he was recognized for his educational content on technology and programming. Herold lived in Huntsville, Alabama, and with a strong background in computer science, he aimed to share his knowledge and help others, leading him to establish his online presence. His motivations seem rooted in a desire to make learning accessible and engaging. Carl uploaded his first video on July 8, 2012, providing tutorials on coding languages and programming tips.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Higher Computing for Everyone, Lesson 2.1, Understanding Binary. So the purpose of this lesson is, first of all, I want you to be able to look at a binary number and understand what the value of that number actually is. How do you understand what the binary number actually is? Well, in order to understand that, you need to understand place values.
At the height of the channel's popularity, he had over 30,000 subscribers, and his subreddit r/Carl H Programming grew to over 19,000 members. His content was aimed at programming enthusiasts, and his approachable teaching style made him a respected figure in the online tech community. On July 26, 2012, he was awarded Redditor of the Day for his efforts in helping others. However, in November of 2013, things took a disturbing turn when Herold was arrested on charges of child exploitation involving his 9-year-old son. He and his partner, Charles Donovan, were accused of filming the abuse and distributing the videos as part of a CP ring. Authorities discovered that the child had been kept isolated in their basement in Huntsville, Alabama, denied an education, and subjected to horrific treatment. The investigation revealed that he had been transported across state lines for further exploitation. Reports also indicated that Herold was implicated in a broader investigation into a network producing and distributing CP. The evidence against him was described as overwhelming, including videos and images depicting the sexual exploitation of minors. Prosecutors stated that he and Donovan held his son captive for months, during which they inflicted severe harm and filmed the acts. Herold faced multiple charges, including sodomy, exploitation, aggravated abuse, and CP production. He was indicted on 18 counts, including conspiracy to commit sodomy and exploitation of a child under 12. Donovan was convicted and sentenced to a total of 56 years in prison. As the legal proceedings unfolded, the community grappled with the implications of Herold's actions. The case drew significant media attention, highlighting the urgent need for awareness and protection of child exploitation. Then, in a weird twist, in November of 2014, while being transported by U.S. Marshals to face federal charges, Herold was found dead in a Clay County jail from an apparent. His attorney expressed shock, noting that Herold had seemed to have been in good spirits during their last meeting. Madison County Assistant District Attorney Jason Scully Clemens also expressed sadness, wishing Herold had faced justice instead of taking his own life. In the aftermath of his arrest, his online presence was quickly erased. His subreddit remains restricted, with low activity. Many of his followers were left in disbelief, struggling to reconcile the helpful persona he portrayed with the disturbing reality revealed by the investigation. Another thing I have to mention is that, probably in classic internet fashion, in 2017, a Reddit account claiming to be Carl posted again, stating, "Hi, it's me from heaven," and alleging that he had faked his death and was living in Russia. However, this was later debunked, and it was found out that that Reddit account had just been hacked. The posts were subsequently deleted and the account was banned, and almost all of Herold's videos have over time received a large number of dislikes, reflecting the community's reaction to the shocking revelations about his horrific actions. Reddit user may have revealed a key clue in the 1985 West Side Park murders. You need to contact the FBI right now. That was the overwhelming response from Reddit users in early 2023 after a now deleted post on r/confessions began to gain traction. The post titled, "I know the person who possibly committed an unsolved double murder." It quickly spread across the platform, not because it was dramatic, but because it felt disturbingly real. In it, the user described in chilling detail a decades-old murder in a small-town park, a dying war veteran, and a secret that may have been buried since 1985. The Reddit user claimed to be a grocery store worker who had befriended his neighbor, a frail, cancer-stricken man who used to be a Delta Force officer. The two had a casual arrangement. The Reddit poster would pick up cigarettes and beer, run errands, and in return, the neighbor would share stories from his past. Most were stories about military service, trauma, and life after war. But then one day, the conversation took a turn. The man began telling a story from his teenage years. He described being adopted into a wealthy family in a small industrial town, living with a foster brother, and getting caught up in drugs and drinking like most people around him. According to the post, the neighbor had been infatuated with a girl in high school, his first real romantic relationship. One night, after spending time with her, he believed she was heading home, but she had lied. Instead, she went to a local park to meet another boy, someone the neighbor reportedly hated. The man then described how he and his friends had gone to that same park and discovered the couple alone in a car. What happened next is what sent Reddit into a tailspin. In his own words, the neighbor said, "I went up to the car, shot her in the head with a .22, then shot him in the chest so he wouldn't die right away. I wanted him to sit there, bleeding, watching her die while I mocked him." The Redditor initially assumed it was some sort of sick joke or a fantasy the man made up, until the man showed him items, physical evidence he claimed that had been taken from the victim's car. That detail alone sparked comparisons to a real case, the 1985 West Side Park murders in Muncie, Indiana. On September 28, 1985, two teenagers, 15-year-old Kimberly Dowell and 16-year-old Ethan Dixon, were found shot to death in Ethan's car, parked at West Side Park. Kimberly had been shot in the head, Ethan in the chest. The scene suggested a targeted attack, but despite a long investigation and media attention, the case went cold. Over the years, the murders became local lore, something residents of Muncie remembered but rarely discussed. That was until this post surfaced. What drew even more attention was that, according to the Reddit user, the neighbor showed him personal belongings he claimed to have taken from the car, items that, according to multiple true crime documentaries and articles, had never been recovered. The Redditor, growing increasingly suspicious, went down a rabbit hole, watching documentaries and reading reports about the case. To his shock, everything down to a T lined up. Despite the eerie accuracy, the Redditor wasn't sure how to act. He emphasized that the neighbor had always been good to him, helping him out financially and emotionally. He also said the man was dying of 3 types of cancer and seemed to have nothing left to lose. But still, there were questions. Why confess to a random neighbor after all this time? And was it really a confession, or just an elaborate story created by someone who's obsessed with true crime? Some Reddit users urged the original poster to go to the police, but the post was deleted soon after it gained traction. However, an archived version remains accessible online. As of now, there's been no confirmation from authorities that any new investigation has begun. The Muncie Police Department hasn't made any public statements related to the post, and no arrests have been made. April Bever. This is one of those stories that's so horrifying it doesn't even sound real. But it is. And it all happened in a quiet neighborhood in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. The mom at the center of it. April Bever was a 44-year-old woman with 7 kids. She was into homeschooling, parenting forums, and faith-based education. Pretty normal stuff. She was also active on Reddit under the username u/AokiMom, where she posted about science kits, budgeting tips, and getting her kids ready for online school. But on the night of July 22, 2015, things took a turn no one would have expected. Police were called to the Bever home after a 13-year-old girl, Crystal Bever, made a frantic 911 call. She told dispatchers that her brothers were stabbing the family. When officers arrived, it was a massacre. 5 people had been murdered inside the house: April, her husband David, and 3 of their children, 12-year-old Daniel, 7-year-old Christopher, and 5-year-old Victoria. And the 2 people responsible were April's sons, 18-year-old Robert Bever and 16-year-old Michael Bever. The brothers used knives to carry out the attack, and investigations later confirmed it was premeditated. No arguments or sudden outbursts, just months of planning. And it gets even darker. Their goal wasn't just to kill their family. That was just supposed to be step 1. Robert later admitted that they were planning a cross-country killing spree and wanted to be more infamous than the Columbine. Police found a flash drive in their room with detailed plans, sketches, timelines, and even a hit list. They'd been ordering weapons online, hoarding supplies, and writing about the murders like it was a mission. The only reason they didn't get away with it was because of Crystal. Despite being stabbed multiple times, she managed to escape and call for help. Inside the house, police found 2-year-old Autumn Bever completely unharmed, hiding in her crib. Here's where it gets especially chilling. In the weeks leading up to her death, April had been posting on Reddit, still active and replying to comments. You can go back and find her posts. She had made posts about keeping her kids engaged during summer break, like asking for suggestions for fun and educational science kits for 12-year-olds, and budgeting apps like homeschool curriculums. Completely normal mom posts. But looking at them now, it's like seeing a ghost. Her Reddit account is still filled with comments from users who returned after the news broke, writing things like, "I just found this account after what happened. I'm so sorry." After the murders, Robert was charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of assault with intent to kill. He pleaded guilty and received life in prison without parole. Michael was convicted and also sentenced to life, with the possibility of parole after 225 years. Crystal was placed into protective custody, as was Autumn, who was unharmed. The Bever family home was demolished in 2017, and a memorial park was established at the site to honor the lives lost. Sunburned tourist. It's common for tourists to feel relaxed and carefree whenever they're visiting other countries. Maybe it's the warm weather, the excitement, or the temporary escape from daily life, but this mindset can sometimes make people feel untouchable. For one Reddit user, that ended up costing him a year of his life behind bars. In 2018, an anonymous Redditor, known on the site as sunburnedtourist, shared his harrowing ordeal in an AMA titled, "I spent a year in a Bangkok prison. Ask me anything." He was a US traveler in his late 20s, already struggling with a troubled past marked by a failed relationship, years of heavy drug use, especially Valium, and mental health issues. At one point, he had even been in court 24 times in a single year. After his family intervened, he moved to London and briefly found stability working at a woodyard. But in no time, he felt like he needed a break, so he booked a flight to Thailand, a place he thought he knew well. In Koh Samui, Sunburned tourist vacations seemed to offer a much-needed escape. He rode a rented motorcycle, volunteered at a monkey sanctuary, and even had a wild LSD trip. Yet he was still struggling with his old habits. Carrying a supply of drugs, including Valium, he quickly slipped back into a state of detachment. As his holiday neared its end, he headed to a Bangkok airport. After a night of heavy drinking and Valium use, his judgment was clouded. On the coach from Koh Samui, he encountered a Kiwi traveler who offered him a strip of Valium. In his dazed state, he bought more and hoped to sleep through the long journey. But when he arrived at the airport, his condition worsened. Woozy from the combination of alcohol and Valium, he wandered into a duty-free shop without clear memory of his actions. In his disoriented state, he ended up leaving with a basket full of stolen items that included cigarettes, whiskey, and aftershave. When the fog cleared up though, panic set in. He tried to hide the stolen goods, but it was too late. A vigilant store employee alerted security, and armed police officers quickly surrounded him. He attempted to talk his way out of the situation, thinking that back home, it might only mean a fine or a night in a holding cell. But in Thailand, the legal system is unforgiving. After his passport was checked and the incident processed, he was locked in a holding cell. Despite contacting the British embassy, his family couldn't come up with the £7,500 needed for bail. Without a way to get out, he was transferred to the notorious Samut Prakan prison. Inside, the conditions were brutal. Shackled in 12mm steel chains, he endured the heat on overcrowded buses and was crammed into holding cells that reeked of sweat and urine. He spent days without basic comforts, surrounded by inmates, many of whom were struggling with their own drug addictions. One harrowing memory he recounted was during an oppressive bus ride, when he and his fellow prisoners screamed at the guards, pleading for the air conditioning to be turned on just to survive. As weeks turned into months, the full weight of the situation set in. With little hope of a lengthy appeal, he eventually chose to accept his fate. Sentenced to 2 years, Sunburned Tourist opted to have his term by admitting guilt. Even in that darkness, there were moments of unexpected humanity. A young translator intern once broke down in tears as she confessed her own past misdeeds while expressing deep sympathy for him. After nearly a year in prison, he was finally released. The ordeal left him with deep physical and emotional scars. He lost significant weight, cried more than he ever thought possible, and spent countless hours in disbelief over how his life had unraveled. Sunburned Tourist answered hundreds of questions about his time in prison. Anything from what he ate to what other inmates were like, to how hard it was to get back to normal life. His AMA gave a real and honest look as to how his life had changed forever. Ager Hasan. On April 28th of 2017, 22-year-old Melinda Vasilia was found brutally murdered in her Kitchener, Ontario apartment. She had been stabbed 47 times in what police quickly determined was a targeted attack. The primary suspect was her 24-year-old ex-boyfriend, Ager Hasan. Shortly after the murder, he fled to the United States, setting off an international manhunt. In a chilling turn of events, Hasan turned to Reddit to post a detailed confession under the username RedAsBlue101. The post, titled "Wanted for Kitchener Murder, My Side," outlined his account of events leading to Melinda's death. In his post, Hasan claimed that after a few weeks apart, he and Melinda had reconciled. The two had cuddled, kissed, and talked about everything on the night of her death, but their reunion turned violent after Melinda confronted him about being with other women during their break. According to Hasan, she became enraged, grabbed a knife, and attacked him. He claimed he acted in self-defense, stabbing her multiple times in a state of shock and fear. The post included photographs of Hasan and Melinda together, as well as screenshots of their final text messages, which ended with Hasan arriving at her apartment and asking her to, quote, "buzz me up." In his account, he described the argument that led to the confrontation, including the claim that Melinda slapped him and then escalated to grabbing a knife. The post, which was later removed by Reddit, caused a media frenzy. Law enforcement officials immediately began investigating whether the post was genuine. They confirmed that Hasan was the prime suspect in the murder, and they continued searching for him after he fled to the United States. Police traced his movements to Erie County, Pennsylvania, where he was seen stealing a license plate from a vehicle at a Walmart parking lot. This plate was later found on his black 2016 Honda HR-V, which was originally registered in Ontario. In addition to being wanted for second-degree murder, Hasan faced charges related to an earlier domestic incident. During a confrontation at Melinda's apartment on April 3rd, Hasan was arrested for assault and breach of recognizance, as a court order had prohibited him from contacting Melinda. Hasan's post also referred to this earlier incident, where he claimed to have been confronted by Melinda's roommate's brother, resulting in a physical altercation and police involvement. This led to legal restrictions on his movements, yet he violated them by going to Melinda's apartment on the night of her death. As of the initial investigation, police urged Hasan to turn himself in, but he remained on the run until his eventual capture. He was apprehended in San Antonio, Texas on July 11th of 2017 during a separate investigation involving a dark web counterfeit currency. He was extradited back to Canada to face charges. After a lengthy trial, Ager Hasan was convicted of second-degree murder in May of 2023. In September of that same year, he was sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after serving 16 years. Given that he had already spent 6 years in custody, his earliest release date would be 2033, that being when he would be 41 years old. During the trial, victim impact statements from Melinda's family revealed the profound grief they experienced. Her mother described Melinda as "my heart, my soul, my best friend," emphasizing the emotional devastation caused by her daughter's untimely death. Salty Interaction 438. In today's digital age, platforms like Reddit allow users to share their thoughts, frustration, and opinions. While most posts are casual, these spaces can sometimes foster darker and more violent ideas. This is the story of user Salty Interaction 438, a 12-year-old from Vantaa, Finland, whose online activity would ultimately link him to a tragic school shooting in April of 2024. Salty Interaction 438 wasn't a famous figure on Reddit, but his posts started to get attention in smaller, darker communities. He often posted in subreddits like r/snappy and Suroi Matan, where people discuss controversial topics. He became known for expressing strong anger and disappointment with society. His posts often included violent thoughts and open hate for social systems. In the days leading up to the shooting, he made several posts that showed his growing anger and feelings about being ignored. These kinds of statements were common in his posts, just really showing frustration and resentment. His online activity painted a picture of someone increasingly disconnected from society, ready to take violent action. On April 2nd of 2024, the quiet town of Vantaa was shocked when Salty Interaction 438 carried out a shooting at Virtola school, targeting students and staff. Several victims were critically injured in the attack, which was quick and chaotic. The shooter's motive seemed to be to make people understand his pain and anger, a feeling he had mentioned in his final posts. After the attack, authorities linked his identity to the shooting and found evidence of his planned actions. His posts, full of anger and violent language, were not just random thoughts. Investigators later discovered his online activity closely matched the shooting, with many posts mentioning the violence he intended to carry out. After the shooting, Salty Interaction 438 was arrested near the school without a struggle. His trial in 2024 became a big topic of discussion about the role online platforms play in encouraging real-world violence. The case got a lot of attention because of the clear link between his online activity and the shooting. Experts and lawmakers debated how much responsibility platforms like Reddit should have in preventing harmful content. Even though Reddit has tools to flag harmful posts, his comments were missed until it was too late. In August of 2024, Salty Interaction 438 was found guilty of attempted murder and sentenced to 25 years in prison. The trial brought up concerns about the dangers of violent ideas spreading online and started conversations about how social media platforms should be held responsible for the content they allow. Stefan Stearns. It's natural for people to trust those closest to them, whether it's a partner, a family friend, or someone they live with. However, sometimes the people who appear the most trustworthy can cause the greatest harm. Unfortunately, this was true in the case of Stefan Stearns, a 38-year-old man from Florida who was charged in 2024 with the murder and SA of 13-year-old Madeline Soto, which was the daughter of his girlfriend. Stearns had been dating Madeline's mother for some time and was a frequent presence in their home. Madeline, a typical teenager, attended school, spent time with friends, and lived a life many would assume was safe and normal. But that vibe shattered on February 26 of 2024 when Madeline was reported missing. Her mother, Jen Soto, went to pick her up from school, only to discover that she had never arrived. For days, her family and authorities frantically searched for her. As the hours turned into days, it became clear that something far worse than a runaway situation was at play. Finally, after 4 days, Madeline's body was discovered in a wooded area in Osceola County. Initially, it wasn't clear who had been responsible, but as the investigation processed, all eyes turned to Stefan Stearns, the last person to have seen Madeline alive. Stearns told investigators that he took Madeline to school that morning, but denied having anything to do with her disappearance and death. In a turn of events, newly released documents revealed video evidence showing a man driving a car matching the description of Stearns, moving what detectives believe was a limp body from the passenger seat to the trunk of the car at a local parking garage. This evidence posed a significant challenge for Stearns' defense. According to investigative documents, detectives found surveillance footage of a car matching Stearns heading to the trash compactor earlier that morning at 7:35. In this footage, a female, believed to be Madeline, sat slumped over in the front seat of a vehicle. Other video evidence showed her in the same slump position leaving the apartment complex. Stearns reportedly told investigators that he dropped Madeline off nearby the school sometime between 8:20 to 8:40 a.m., claiming she was going through a phase and was embarrassed of his vehicle. The timeline of events, according to Stearns' statements and video surveillance, reveals a disturbing pattern. At 7 a.m., Stearns stated that he and Madeline woke up to get an early start so they could get McDonald's on the way to school. By 7:35 in the morning, video shows a male, believed to be Stearns, discarding a trash bag filled with items and a trash compactor of his apartment complex with a female wearing a green sweater, believed to be Madeline. Stearns claimed they left home and drove towards McDonald's, but video evidence contradicted this account. At 8:19 a.m., video shows Stearns entering the apartment complex in his car with Madeline still in the same position. He stated that after grabbing a gate clicker, he and Madeline headed out again towards school. He later claimed that he had forgotten the clicker and returned home instead of dropping Madeline off at school first, saying they had plenty of time to kill because the school bell didn't ring until 9:15 a.m. The most notable video evidence shows a vehicle matching the description of Stearns pulling into a Holiday Inn parking garage at 9:40 a.m. A male wearing a red shirt exits the car and carries what appears to be a limp body to the trunk. This evidence was critical as it completely contradicts Stearns' claims and suggests a far more sinister reality. Investigators also retrieved CSA material from Stearns' phone, which could provide a motive for the prosecution. The case gained significant attention online, and a subreddit titled r/Madeline Soto was created to track the case's developments. The subreddit became a hub where users shared updates, court documents, and news articles, allowing the public to stay informed. These community-driven efforts generated an outpouring support for Madeline's family and amplified the demand for justice. In March of 2025, a new batch of jailhouse phone calls between Stephen Stearns and his parents was released, revealing shocking revelations. In these conversations, which lasted around 4 hours, Stearns admitted for the first time that he had discovered Madeline's body. This was a far cry from his previous claim that he had dropped Madeline off at school the morning that she went missing. Stearns described finding Madeline's lifeless body, saying, "When someone is that ice cold and just gone," and later added, "By the time I realized it was far too late, she'd been gone for a while." In one particular chilling exchange, Stearns expressed regret but maintained his detachment. "I wish I had run downstairs and shaken her awake and called 911, but she was beyond that." His mother, Deborah Stearns, replied, "Maybe she could have been saved." But Stearns dismissed the idea, saying, "No, she was beyond that." These recordings also revealed Stearns' disturbing comments about his relationship with Madeline. When asked by his parents if he was attracted to minors, Stearns avoided direct answer, stating he wasn't generally attracted to them. Yes, guys, he wasn't generally attracted to them. Whatever that means. He went on to say that he didn't like most kids, yet shockingly claimed that Madeline had feelings for him. He also revealed that Madeline's mother, Jen Soto, would often joke about him leaving her for her daughter when Madeline was older. Stearns' mother was also reportedly aware that Madeline had slept in the same bed as Stearns, although she denied knowing about the abuse and has not faced any charges related to her daughter's death or abuse. Meanwhile, in these jailhouse cells, Stearns also complained about life in prison, his uncomfortable living conditions, and his desire for personal items like coffee and books. Despite the gravity of the charges against him, he seemed largely concerned with trivial matters, like a collectible popcorn bucket and various toiletries. This contrast between the severity of his crimes and his focus on everyday frustrations added another unsettling layer to the case. As of now, Stearns faces charges including first-degree murder, capital sex battery, and possession of CSA material. His murder trial is scheduled to begin in September of 2025, with the SA trial set for May of 2025. The prosecution is pushing for the death penalty, given the horrific nature of the crimes. Stearns' defense team has also requested that media outlets and the public be barred from poking into the case. Nicholas Kassotis. It all began with a story posted on Reddit by user named u/NMWrites. A small-time writer in his late 30s, real name Nicholas Kassotis, living with his wife, Mindy Medane, in Savannah, Georgia. Nicholas wasn't a well-known figure at all. He self-published short stories, occasionally sold freelance scripts for podcasts, and posted his work on Reddit. His writing often explored themes of guilt, loneliness, emotional stagnation, and death, often touching on personal struggles. On December 2nd of 2022, a gruesome discovery was made in the woods of the Portal Hunting Club in Riceboro, Georgia. Hunters stumbled upon the dismembered body of an unidentified woman. Authorities later determined that the body had been scattered across the club grounds, with parts of her remains found within a 3-mile radius in both Liberty County and McIntosh County. At first, the death appeared to be an overdose, possibly but further investigation soon painted a darker picture. Mindy Medane, Nicholas's wife, had been killed. The autopsy revealed that Mindy had been strangled. Traces of lorazepam, a sedative, were found in her system, but just enough to incapacitate her, rendering her defenseless. Nicholas initially claimed that Mindy had been depressed and that they had argued earlier that week. He said he came home to find her collapsed at their Savannah home. But investigators dug deeper. They found significant inconsistencies in his story. His phone data revealed that he had searched for methods of strangulation days before Mindy's death. What is it with these murderers always using Google to look up how to kill someone? why? Even more damning was his search for how to delete Google history permanently, which pointed an attempt to cover his tracks. It wasn't just his phone activity that raised suspicion though. Nicholas had been active on Reddit under his username NMWrites, where he regularly posted stories, journal-style entries, and personal reflections. At the time, it seemed like just another piece of fiction. But as the investigation continued, it became clear that the timing of the posts aligned almost exactly with the timeline of Mindy's death. Some began to question whether Nicholas's writings were perhaps confessions veiled as fiction. Even after Mindy's funeral, Nicholas continued his online activity. He posted about grief, creativity, the relief of no longer having to explain himself, and no expectations, just silence. Yet no one questioned these strange posts at the time. It wasn't until Mindy's sister Sharon began combing through Nicholas's social media that things started to unravel. Sharon discovered his Reddit username, which Nicholas had once linked from his Twitter account. She handed the information over to the police, who issued a subpoena for the account. There, they found critical evidence, GPS data placing Nicholas at their home on the day of Mindy's death, as well as browser activity tying back to his searches about sedatives and strangulation. As the investigation continued, law enforcement turned to genealogy DNA testing to identify the remains. It took several months, but on May 11th of 2023, Mindy's remains were finally identified. And on May 12th, nearly 5 months after Mindy's death, Nicholas Kassotis, aged 40, was arrested in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He was charged with malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, tampering with evidence, and removal of body parts. Authorities have yet to uncover a clear motive for the crime, and the investigation remains ongoing. Nicholas had been living in Savannah at the time of Mindy's death, though it remains unclear why he was in Lancaster when he was arrested. He was denied bail, and as of now, the case is still awaiting trial, which is scheduled for August 4th of 2025. There has been no sentencing as of yet. Nicholas hasn't entered a plea, and his attorney status is unclear. That's going to be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed the way I explained things, if you guys enjoyed my voice while I was telling these stories, make sure to leave a like. Hopefully I earned your subscription. And if you guys are interested in my brand, it's named Exist. We have 3 designs over on the website. With that being said, I will see you guys next time I upload.